Hi, and welcome back to the Saylor Elevate Blueprint podcast. This is a place where we highlight leaders who are navigating growth, people, and technology, but with intention, because we are keeping the human at the center of our work. So today we're joined by Dee. She's a leader whose perspective is shaped by experience, curiosity, which is one of the things I love most about her, genuine care for people, and genuine care for her work. She brings this very, very thoughtful approach to her leadership and the operations within her business, especially as organizations adapt to new tools, new expectations, kind of a changing world of work. So we're excited today to explore with Dee her insights and learn from her the way she approaches things with clarity, but with such heart too. So welcome, Dee, to our
Thank you.
podcast. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you for the nice introduction. Appreciate
You're
that.
so very welcome. Absolutely. So Dee and I've had previous conversations and kind of gotten to know each other a little bit. I think that is my absolute favorite part of the work is just people, right? And you and I are both those people. So
Yeah.
we had some questions that we had thought about. So let's just dive in and then we'll just see where this takes us. You've worn a lot of different hats. So I'm kind of curious about like the most significant success that you've had in your firm, whether it's been driven by technology or just honestly pure human strategy.
Okay. That's a tough one to answer, just one side or the other, because I
Sure.
think it's definitely a combination of both. The human strategy is understanding, for at least for me, through the years of growth and being a human, is well, we want to be intentional and we want to be impactful and inspiring to other humans that we are in relation with. And sometimes part of that can be driven through a technology manner or it's driven through the human strategy. And I believe I have to use both. I don't know that I can lean into one or the other as having met my business needs and helping to help a client, even for that matter. So, from the experience and the human side in that, that's where we get our communication. That's where we really dig into the meanings of things for people and the purposes for people versus the technology are the things that are helping us to take the minutia out sometimes that are the distractions that keep us from being human.
Yeah.
So
That's a very good point.
it's funny. I read something somebody wrote that I admire from the AI world recently that said, I want an AI tool that'll fold my laundry. Their point really was that I don't want an AI tool to do my job for me because I love doing my job. I want it to take these other tasks out of there for me so that I keep doing what I love. And so I think it's important that we keep that in the back of our mind too when we're always looking to create new tools and new ways to get things done and be more efficient.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with that more. And I think it's a really good point that you have to match technology and the human strategy piece. You can't really separate those and still be successful unless we're like going back to the time when, I mean, heck, even if we went back to farming, people were still using some form of technology back in the early days of farming, right? So like it's always been a match. It's just technology continues to develop and it's developing at an incredibly rapid pace right now. And so that's one of the things, as you and I know, that we are really concentrating on here at Saylor Elevate is making sure we keep the human aspect as this technology starts to really, really increase. That said, if you had a magic wand and you could eliminate one operational challenge inside your firm with what you deal with on a daily basis, what would it be?
Gathering information rapidly.
Eh,
One of the things as an HR professional that I do is as soon as you bring something to me, I start asking questions. That's naturally the way our brains are wired for problem solving. So to gather that information in a succinct way, to be able to provide rapid solutions. I mean, that's kind of a personal goal, even that there's not a perfect way to answer everything that every situation, and that's why. Thank God I get to still exist because it's the experiences, right? It's my time doing what I do and the studying and the aligning with other HR professionals for input and growth that we get to share. But you still have to have a lot of information or at least the right information to answer that stuff accurately. So if I could run my magic wand in that, I would have a proper tool to gather information rapidly to be able to be a faster service to people. When it comes to people decisions, sometimes they do happen that fast. And you can also make a bad decision that fast. And it can be
Sure.
very costly that fast.
But we can't really get to solutions for people unless we know what the problems are. So we
Exactly.
have to ask the questions, and sometimes it's a litany of them. And by gathering said information, like you said, you're going to be able to have better solutions. And I think also from my perspective here, being in the AI world, I know that every single situation is different, but you are looking at specific things within the HR field. So if you can gather all of that information and it can be used again and again to answer questions, it's going to save you time. It's going to save your client time. And there's going to be a much more efficient way of doing business that then allows you to be over here doing the things that are actually going to help that person solve the problem a lot faster, which, it's key because when people come to you, they need a problem solved. And the faster you help them, the better your business is.
That's
So,
right. And the voice of reason too. As HR professionals, we can become a voice of reason that, we have to be on it, I guess to say, to ask the right questions as well. And that's, where I feel like our experiences in that lean into that to create that.
yeah, it makes sense.
So it's not just saying AI, go ask all these questions here, chat GPT, do this. It's the thoughtfulness of maybe not, I would say I would consult with a lot of HR people before I would come up with that whole realm of questions,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's where our greatest successes still are, is in collaboration. And
Collaboration.
so once again, even though AI is an awesome tool, it still takes the collaboration of minds to
Of
get to those
human minds.
awesome
Yes.
ideas. Yes, and the results that drive the best.
Well, yeah, because most people probably know this, but there's a huge volume of people that aren't really AI informed yet. And one thing that is really important to understand, because there are people out there that are, thinking that negatively of it, is that AI is only as good as we teach it to be. It has to be taught. So for you to go out and gather those questions from your other HR professionals, you're going to be able to teach that AI piece in an incredible way. And that's going to only be a uptick for you and your business, and something that you can share with others. So I think that's a pretty huge piece there. So what do you currently use in your business that's AI?
Obviously, ChatGPT is a great quick tool. We're good friends. There's a lot of tools that I don't necessarily use today, but I've had the privilege and the honor to get to use because they've helped me to be where I am today, like Power BI, Tableau. I was introduced to that in one of my roles to really do that data gathering
Okay.
and realize the power that it brought to the HR realm. And what that really did for the HR professional was it helped you to align with the other professionals and speak their language to give them information that they could really grasp to in that joint decision making processes. When you start speaking the language of finance with somebody as the HR professional and giving them the data that supports that, all of a sudden they lean in. And
Yes,
that's
because
what you want. That's probably one of the biggest challenges that some HR departments out there might have is getting the respect and the ears of other departments because they're not sure about your data. And so this is where data analytics to me is super important, to be pulling good information together and really supplying some really solid stuff for other leaders so that decisions are being made with real data. It's not just I think, or it might be, or they say, or this is my perception. This is what the data says. Part was super important to use that. And then I've been working with workflows, for years. I don't know that a lot of people don't recognize that they've been interacting with AI a lot
yeah,
longer than they think.
right.
I can, and smaller companies, when I think about the passion of what I do today and how I can support smaller companies, might not be that I am an AI professional in writing, but I would still connect them with other people that could, to say, this
Sure.
is an efficiency in your business that while I can't fix that, I know it's capable.
Yeah.
And that's where
And
the
that's
word resource comes in handy, to start connecting. Even if you don't have experience using the tool, the tool can do it, and getting the right people connected. And I definitely pride myself on that I may not know your answer, but I know the person that does.
the
I
person
have a
that
direction for you. And I think that that's another piece, is it's not always just the experience of the tools that you use, but the knowledge of the tools and what they can do,
absolutely.
and keeping other people connected to that. From a collaborative perspective, those decisions are much more peaceful. They're more solid. You can stand behind them when they're made with data.
That's very true. And then I think also, because there is a shiny new penny every day, like literally almost every day today. It's understanding the resource of where to go and find the information. And, it's funny because you can use AI to find AI,
Yeah. Oh, yes.
right?
And with the idea also to double check your information and I
Yes, yes.
encourage that a lot is it can hallucinate because it's still learning. We all kind of know that is if something is what it says is AI looks at all the resources and tries to bring you the best answer based on the collective data that it was able to look at. So it's still our responsibility in these early adopting years to go back and ask the question again, refine those
Refine it back and
questions.
forth. Yep.
Yep, and to double check it, go to some other sources in that and make sure that you're validating that information.
And you know what's funny, Dee, is I think that that's something that we have been doing for many, many years in business and in life. But the newbies that are coming onto the scene now, like out of high school, out of college, they're they they they're using a lot of these tools, and some of them are not necessarily understanding that there is a checks and balances process and that they need to be doing that. So I think that's a huge tip, especially for this younger generation, because you can't it's only as good as it's what you teach it and what it can find.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big deal.
And
So
staying really curious, right? Is with that. I was curious as to how are other businesses using AI in the bigger realm. Education was one of them. How are the education sectors using AI and what are they allowing and not allowing for their students?
yeah,
And
that's a
so,
that's a I'm not sure that that's even been figured out yet. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure individual universities and stuff like that have a way, but like that's a big piece of something that's going to have to get figured out in the world because
and I just tell somebody if you get a chance to go somewhere and listen to panel
Mhm,
discussions.
do it.
That's what I did. I listened to a couple deans for some colleges sit on a panel and somebody from a high school
Oh,
that was, an administrator from a high school and that just to listen to, their thoughts on it and what they were allowing and not allowing and why.
I bet that was so interesting.
It was really interesting. We've actually I'm in Fort Wayne and we've actually got a really great platform here that focuses on that. It's called AI in Fort Wayne and literally the person that started it, that's her whole goal is not to convince everybody to use AI, but more so to not be afraid of it because you can understand what it can and can't do. And the human aspect is not what it's going to replace. Still think
Yeah,
that's a really important message
a
is that
big
we
message.
still want those relationships with
Yeah,
each other
because
as
people
humans. We were
are
made that
they're
way.
afraid to use it because they think it's gonna somehow replace, and that's gonna shoot them in the foot, especially if people don't start getting familiar with it that are in their upper ages of their careers,
Right.
because it's not gonna be AI that replaces them, it's gonna be someone that actually understands the capabilities. So people
Right.
have to start teaching themselves and so on and so forth. So and there was
Yeah.
something that we talked about before we jumped on, and we were talking about integration. So tell me, like, you have a lot of thoughts around that. So tell me about that.
The integration is when when your thoughts become your beliefs and habits. That's when things are really becoming integrated. And so just staying within this topic in the realm of what we're talking about, the generations is important. That sometimes we have a tendency to reject a younger generation if we're in a place because we only know it one way. When I say integration, that means you're willing and you're open to that change. AI is by far one of those things. And so I think the generations need each other more to make that integration than less.
I love that. I love that point.
The boldness of a young person just getting started with this and exploring it, it's exciting. And then the value of experience from somebody a little older helps to kind of put some guardrails in there and say, have you thought about this? Well, what about that? So, not casting the fear, but creating the caution. And with that, I think we can make a really healthy integration to utilize these tools that are coming our way to do work better, faster, more efficiently, more honestly, if we're willing to adapt with that too and respect and welcome the integration.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a huge tip because I think there's fear, a lot of fear out there. And as you know, that's one of the things that we're hoping to spread with this podcast. Let's not spread the fear that there's a lot of goodness here that we can take away and actually utilize to make life better. It doesn't have to be negative.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you one more question. This is a question I ask. It's basically if you could tell yourself something 10 years ago that you've learned that would have enhanced the last 10 years of your life, what advice would you give yourself?
That you don't know everything and you don't have to know everything.
That's a golden nugget.
Yeah, that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to create an image to show up in the world as maybe what we've thought that it expects of us. And I wish I would have known to relax a little bit more and accept that I didn't know everything and I didn't have to.
Hmm.
I am a hungry learner anyway. I love to learn, but I probably would have been even a better learner because my biggest goal today is to create those opportunities for people younger than me.
That's beautiful, Dee. And I feel like myself and a lot of the people that I know, a lot of the other women I know, we really feel like we have to understand the entire picture, the full plan before we can take that next step.
Yeah.
And it's not necessary. Take the next step and then the path will start to show up. And I say that doesn't mean I'm good at it, but I say it all the time. And I think we say these things to reinforce ourselves as well. And I know that you took a huge step coming into 2026, and I'm
I
so proud
did.
of you for it. It's
I did.
fantastic. And I'm so excited to just continue to watch and see and reconnect with you and watch your success just boom. So we're so
Likewise.
grateful that you were able to be here with us today. Who knows why God brought us together and what this will do in both of our lives. But I think that there's a lot of nuggets that you shared here. I know that if I would have heard a powerful woman and a leader tell me 10 years ago, listen, you don't need to know everything and you don't have to know everything. That would have been a golden nugget I probably would have held on to for a long
Yeah.
time. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
And I appreciate you elevating it that as a woman, speaking to a woman too, that we do put that extra pressures on
We do.
ourselves. And so to me, it makes the advice even richer. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad, but it's a
Yeah.
very true statement.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so glad we're both people.
Yes, me too.
All
Have a
right,
great
I will
day.
talk with you soon, Dee. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.